So Vanessa, long time no see. I think it's been over a year since I saw you last.
Yes.
You came to Kelowna in 2014.
I did.
From Creston. Mm-hmm. What made you decide to come to Kelowna?
Well, a couple reasons. So I have two girls, and they were just becoming teenagers. And Creston, even though it's a beautiful area, for what they were into with acting and soccer and volleyball, I knew that they would be able to have more opportunities here in Kelowna. Mm-hmm. The other odd thing was that I was working on a business that I had launched in Creston called Nightingale Patient Care Advocacy. Mm-hmm. And I had spent a couple years looking for the perfect place in BC where I could really take my business to like another level. So I had researched Kelowna, Kamloops. I even thought about going back to Edmonton and Calgary. But after 2 years, everything kind of fell back into Kelowna. It was like the perfect community. It's had access to so many other cities around it. And my business could cover like such a broad area, like all the way up to Revelstoke down to Osoyoos very easily. So that's mainly the big reason why I came here.
Did you know anything about Kelowna before you came? Or was it like Google searches and
I
research?
knew that it was a younger crowd here. So coming from Creston, it's mostly retired people. I know there's a lot of retirement here, but they do put a lot of focus into young entrepreneurs. So I had looked into that. The chambers seemed to be a lot, bigger than the one in Creston, obviously, and they did a lot of focus with young entrepreneurs. And that's about it. I just kind of knew that. Like the hospital offered more, there's just more education just for myself with my nursing and but I didn't know anybody when I came. So it was literally just taking a chance. My family kind of followed me and we just landed here.
Did you come for a visit at least before you moved here?
I did. One of my girlfriends got married here, so I came a couple years prior. And no, other than that, I would just drive through, buy some wine or whatever. Right. And I was like, this place is always beautiful. Yeah. So
you're not from Creston?
No, I'm actually from Edmonton.
Okay. Yes. So that's where you were born and raised.
I was born there, yeah.
And how did you get from Edmonton to Creston?
My mother brought us there when I was 12. So I went to high school there, and then I actually went back to Edmonton to do my nursing school, and then back to Creston to raise my kids, which was a perfect place for little kids. Yes. But again,
older kids, there's more.
They get bored.
More opportunities here.
So.
Right. So you started Nightingale Patient Care Advocacy, or NPCA, in Creston.
I did. Yeah.
Tell us, what is it about? What does it do?
So my background is I've been an emergency room nurse for 15 years. And what I have seen people go through is that the healthcare system is getting more complicated. There's a lot of cutbacks. Nurses are getting burnt out. Patients are in hallways. Like basically the system is being like overburdened. And I went into nursing because I want to work with families. I want to be able to spend time with them. And I'm finding more and more that I can't do that. And most nurses can't because we're basically just doing maintenance to kind of get people through the hospital through like point A to point B. So what I feel patients are missing is the time that you can spend with them, listen to them, figure out what their rights are, make sure they're connected with the right resources, explain to family what's going on. That's not happening as much as we want it to happen. So nurses are trained to be advocates, but in reality, we don't have the time. And it's not because they don't want to. So that's where I was like, there's a huge need for people, especially with the aging baby boomers. They're basically taking up, they're all retiring right now. So they're putting a lot of burden on the system. Even our elderly people are living to over 100, and that's not very uncommon anymore. Like this is a big thing. So you see this trend, and I'm thinking, like, I need to start something. And there's a few advocates here in Canada, but it's still kind of a newer concept that this is even available to people. So that's my passion, is I want to help people get the courage to ask questions, to bring a nurse in with them, talk to their doctor, or make sure if they're feeling they're not being heard, I can advocate and make sure that the doctor's spending that extra time with them, or vice versa.
Yeah, I noticed the few times that I've had to go to the emergency room, either for myself or to visit a friend, you could see people kind of sitting there wondering, like, what the hell is going on? Like, nobody's talking to me.
That's the thing, yeah. And it looks like we're just running around, which was just true. Like, we're just like busy people. And then you realize like your hour goes by in 2 seconds, but somebody's been sitting there for 2 hours and no one has explained anything to them. So that's where I can come in and explain what the process is, or why is my mom still in the hospital? Like, why is she being admitted? So sometimes people can, be admitted and no one's actually talked to the family yet. Mm-hmm. So I've been hired a lot from... So maybe somebody's mom lives here in a residential care and they live in Calgary. Right. So I've been hired a lot in that sense. They're like, do I take a whole week off work to drive down here to sit with mom? Or can I hire an advocate, an RN who I know and trust that can sit and talk to the doctors, make sure everything's running smoothly, and I'll come down when I can. Right.
So it's like a liaison between the patient and their families and the medical system.
It is.
And I can understand why it's valuable for older people, because people who are retired or old, they usually have adult children who are still working. Yep. Maybe in a different town, maybe in Kelowna, but it's really hard for them to just sit there for hours in the hospital. Mm-hmm. So how do people find you?
So I am basically, people type in like nurse advocate or I need help. There's a lot of things you can write into the Google search engine and you usually come up with a patient advocate or nurse advocate.
Is this pretty common?
It's not that common. Like I know there's a couple other people in town that are doing similar things as I am here in town, but I feel like I have a broader coverage. Like this last year, I have now started focusing on youth and parents because we are in a huge crisis, as we all know, about like the fentanyl overdoses. We're one of the big drug capitals here, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. I think we're a gateway, perfect highway, things come through here. Yeah. Now, being an emergency, you see a lot of the front lines of what's happening, that overdoses, deaths, and there's not a lot of resources happening in town. They're getting better. They're trying to do the Narcan kits. They're trying to do stuff. But what I have found is that there's not any education being done with the parents yet on what to do when your child is having this problem. So I've actually designed a program, and I've actually talked to the COPAC, which is the Parenting Association Committee, and I'm returning there next month to talk about how to advocate for your kid. Because you almost have to kind of think outside the box. You got to be able to relay all these resources together, but nobody teaches you how to do that.
Right.
So that is what I do as well. And I do this with patients, when you're advocating for your loved one. So it's the same kind of steps that you do for advocating that you can kind of apply to anything in your life.
Yeah. Well, it's so true with teenage girls in the house. Like, fortunately, knock on wood, we don't have any serious problems at the moment, but I can only imagine if like something happened, and it's like, who do you even talk to?
Yeah.
Right? There's there's so much information out there. I wouldn't even know who to call.
And that's the thing. Like, even when, like as I said, I've had my own experiences with this, with people in my family, and even me being a registered nurse with lots of background and being an advocate, I didn't realize how little supports there are actually when it comes to that here. And they are improving and they are working on it, but I felt lost and it was awful. In my experience, I know of a child who got involved in drugs at a very young age. Her mother was absolutely desperate. She'd done every little pamphlet that emergency had given her, everything that social services had given her. Like, she felt like she had covered everything and still nothing was working. And she learned the hard way that there's something called the Infants Act of BC, where children have a lot more rights than what parents would like to think. And you can't force help upon children that are 12 or 13. Wow. This, as far as I know, is one of the only provinces that have this law, because in Alberta you can help children because, their brains aren't developed enough yet to make these decisions. So so I had to help her learn how to advocate for her kid, to basically show all these services that she had done absolutely everything that is available in this city, and it's not working, so we need to come together.
So the child was refusing treatment.
But her life was at stake. She was living on the streets and got into some serious drugs like meth and everything. And and she was only running away from home. It was awful. So anyways, so this mom had done everything that was available, and that's when I realized, like, this is what we hand out to everybody at the hospital. This is what every community like resource hands out to people, and you send people home with this information, and what do they do with it? So anyway, so that's where I was able to come in, and we had to think a little outside the box and kind of create an action plan with the right people, and stuck with it, and just thought strange things, like strange ideas, but in the end it did work. And I was like, okay, that's why I decided to create this program, because I'm like, it didn't exist for this mom. And there's so many parents out there that are living this right now here in Kelowna and in other places. So
yeah, I think it's a wonderful thing when from personal need, or someone we care about is going through a personal need, and we can create something and fill that gap. Is it expensive? Are your services expensive? So I know it's like older, wealthy people, it may not be an issue. Yeah. But sometimes the teenage kids. Yeah. Maybe an affordability. So
I know it's not cheap. I mean, as we all know, like if you've run a business, there's your hourly time. So yeah, I charge hourly. Nothing's covered by medical, like Pacific Blue Cross. They don't cover this type of thing yet. I think this is a very known concept in the U.S. and it is covered there. So I think as more advocates come into Canada, this might be something they look at, because they're not offering it in the present healthcare system at this moment. So, but what I've also done on the side is where I've done workshops to talk about patient care advocacy for people who maybe can't afford me on an hourly basis, but would like to be taught how to do the basic steps, and then they can just use me for an hour. So I do find that I'm not, even though I'm charging hourly, I charge $85 an hour. You only need me maybe for like 3 or 4 hours. So in the big scheme of things, I can get a lot more done for you in that short period of time, and I'll give you to the people and find people that do these things that are for free or covered. But again, if you don't know where to look, you can spend a lot of time, wasted time and efforts and frustration trying to do it. So
I remember when I had my first daughter, and my ex found out about a midwife program in British Columbia, and it was something that was not previously covered, but there were advocates, and eventually now it's covered.
Covered. Yep.
And it was a really wonderful thing, because similar that there's all these services and things that you can do when you're pregnant for the first time, but people aren't aware of it, and they don't know where to go. And a midwife, she would meet with us like once a month in the early stages, and in the third trimester she was meeting with us once a week, and she came to the hospital with us and everything, and it was just so amazing.
Midwives are amazing, because they take that, it's like the doctor side, plus they have that nurse touch, because they are registered nurses as well that have gotten through their masters. But they kind of give a totally different feel.
Well, we knew exactly what to expect and what was going to happen, and it was really, really nice. So hopefully your services will become covered eventually.
I think it'd be awesome.
A lot of people need it.
I almost find that sometimes there's even maybe more need for people that don't have the money, that don't have the education and stuff, right? So maybe one day down the road we'll be able to get money donated or whatever to give free services to those people. But right now, as my business has only been off the ground for 4 years, and as I said, I'm branching off into schools now, so that's new in the last year. And my courses.
So you'll give talks in schools?
I'm going to be, So I'm going to the parent conference for the COPAC. So it's a Central Okanagan PAC committee, and they do a one-day it's like a big seminar with different guest speakers. So they've asked me to come back again to talk about advocating for your kids and drug awareness and here.
Nice.
So my goal is I'm going to work with schools afterwards and be doing this program and offering it to any parent or anybody that's out there.
That's great. Yeah. And you'll probably pick up clients that way too, because a teacher will hear you speak and say, there's a kid in our class and they need some help, and that's really great. And
it's a less, more cost effective for somebody, maybe spending like $100 for a whole day workshop, as opposed to, they can learn a lot from me then. And then so I try to assist people so that you can do it on your own. That's my goal, is I want people to be educated enough to know how to find help, And then I'm there in the background for those situations where it's just too much.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You offer a course. Tell us about the course that you offer.
So I have 2 courses, but they're very similar. So basically I talk about what an advocate is, who would make a good advocate. So this is not just for a business. This is just like, say your parents are elderly and there's you and your brothers or whatever have to decide who's going to be the health representative for them. So I kind of help people figure out who would fit that, who's can be not too emotional, who can communicate well. And if you can't, and maybe you're the only one, that's kind of the next step. I teach you how to communicate effectively without getting too angry and I help you kind of get the best out of your resources and how to get the best out of your doctor. And because there's just a different way to communicate with people to get what you want. And then basically I show them how to put together medical records, just kind of keep everything organized so when you're walking into a doctor, you're not overwhelming them with your long stories. You're kind of cut to the chase. And so I just make things run a little bit more smooth. And yeah, so that's basically my course. It's just kind of how to do the basics of advocating.
And is it a video course or?
It's in person. It's in person. Yeah. So I spend 6 hours with you, including a lunch hour there, and we just go through it.
You cover it.
Yeah.
List of points.
And it's kind of like a workbook where you can kind of take maybe your present problem and we can kind of, work our way through it to the end. Nice. And that's what I'm doing with the advocating for your child. So it's similar, but it's geared towards children.
So 2 courses.
Yeah.
One for the elderly.
Yeah.
And what if someone is younger but they're terminally ill?
Yeah, it's for anybody.
That would apply.
Yeah. The only reason I say elderly is that a lot more people from the elderly hire me, or it's usually actually the baby boomers that are hiring me for their parents. Right. But I have had people as young as 30 hire me because they just want me to do research or whatever on something, because anything can happen to anybody.
Yes.
So. Very
true.
Yeah.
Very true. Do you still work in emergency?
I do. Yeah. Part-time.
Do you get, like, whenever I've been to emergency, I can't stand it because I don't like the sight of blood. I hate seeing people in pain. How do you cope with that? Do you just shut off all your feelings, or how do you deal with people with a bone sticking out of their?
I think, well, first of all, I've always had a fascination with it, so it's never bothered me, like to see blood and guts.
You have a fascination.
Not just like it doesn't. It doesn't bug me. It's intriguing. Like I think medicine's cool. Watching surgeries is cool and all that stuff. So I actually went into nursing to become a midwife, which I think is so funny because I never went into babies at all. So by the time I finished my nursing school, I fell in love with emergency care because it's different every day. You get to work with all age groups. You learn so much. You kind of like the jack of all trades, but master at trauma kind of thing. You just know a little bit about a lot of stuff.
You have to be kind of a unique person, I think. Like, you can't be so cold that you don't recognize priorities and what's urgent. But you can't be so freaked out by the sight of blood or pain that you can't function.
You probably wouldn't have passed first year nursing.
Right.
We've had a lot of people drop out the first year not realizing that, it was just too much. Yeah. But that's normal. Like, there's a job for everybody. There's a lot of jobs out there that I couldn't do either. So.
Yeah, well, you don't have to describe anything explicitly, but do you ever see things in emergency that even you are like, whoa, like you have to kind of catch your breath.
Yeah, anything child-related, I think hits everybody hard. Yeah. Like, that's probably the hardest.
See a child in pain.
Yeah, in pain or just anything. So no matter how long I think I've ever been nursed, that will always bug me, so.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's the thing. But they train you how to cope, it's, and they do briefing afterwards and stuff. But you just follow your thing. And you're working as a team, too. So even if you just need to take a breather, you always have other people to back you up. So we got a good team here. So.
Have you seen people die?
Many, many times. Yes.
Yeah. Is that, I've had some family members die. I had a car accident when I was, 1998, I think it was. And a pedestrian jumped in front of my car. And it was a total accident.
Oh, my goodness.
They had a homicide investigator because someone died.
Yeah.
But I wasn't speeding, and I wasn't under the influence. They could actually tell by your skid marks, like how fast you were traveling.
Yeah, they're quite,
which was interesting, because the officer said if you were speeding, you might have some culpability, but I wasn't speeding and I was sober. And, the pedestrian was actually at fault completely, but it was...
That'd be traumatic to hit anybody.
Yeah. And when my father was dying of cancer, we knew that he was going to die, but the moment he died, it was a unique feeling. It was like kind of a punch to the gut. Even though we knew, it was months he was deteriorating from the cancer, and we knew it was going to happen, there was kind of a sense of relief because he was suffering. But there's kind of a strange feeling when the moment someone dies. I can't really describe it, but do you find that something you kind of become immune to when you see it so many times, or is it?
Well, I wouldn't say immune. Like, it's different when you don't know someone, for one. It's kind of like looking at the situation, like, were they suffering? Is this a planned, like, are they expecting someone to pass away? Like, my really close experience with death where it was okay was my grandpa, but he lived to 98.
Right.
And he wanted to die in his own home. And I was there and part of the process, and they were just doing palliative care. So it was still sad. It was kind of that empty feeling when they go, but it was done very respectfully, and it was okay, and people had time to prepare. But then I've also had deaths too where people die suddenly, and it's awful. So I was like, it depends on...
So you never really become immune.
You're not really immune. It's just like it's all different situations, and you're there, especially as a nurse, you're there as a role to be a support to that family, right? Yeah. So, you're not getting attached to your, an unhealthy attachment to your patients or anything. And plus, in Emerge, we don't have people there for very long. Chances are they've been admitted and they go upstairs where nurses can spend more time and get to know their patients. So, yeah.
You've been only in Kelowna for a little over 4 years now. And are there any surprises? Like, is it different than what you expected when you moved here? You made a decision.
Yes.
Everything made sense from the perspective of your business and your children. But was it everything you expected?
It was more. It was awesome because I owned a business also in Creston. Had it for 6 years.
What was that?
It was a retail store for shoes, athletic wear.
Did you sell the business?
I just closed it. It was kind of, I could have maybe, but I had made that decision. I was ready to move, ready to do a business that was kind of more lined up with what my passions were. So, so I did okay. I did good. Like, I kept, my business grew every year. But the support was a little bit different. I don't know if it's just a small town mentality. I don't know. I found that the chamber there wasn't focused on young entrepreneurs. They're kind of more focused on the existing businesses that have been there a long time. That's what I had felt. So I didn't have a good taste about the chamber. And I didn't know why I was spending money on it. So eventually I didn't. And when I came here, people were like, you should try the chamber. And I didn't see the point, but then I did, and I was glad that I did because they do a lot of really cool stuff for young people, and they actually really, truly support you. I've met a lot of awesome young entrepreneurs like my age or younger that are doing well, and they get a lot of support here. So I've never seen that before. In Creston, it was hard to make a business. I struggled. It was tough,
Yeah.
It just... Yeah.
There's very, very little, I shouldn't say there's very little education, because there are resources available, but we're not, it's sort of like the patient care thing. People aren't really aware of where to turn and where to go. And the Kelowna Chamber is excellent.
Oh,
You won an award.
I know, I won the top 40 under 40. So that was pretty exciting. Like, every time I've brought up my business with anybody, somebody knows someone that could have used me, and it's exciting watching this grow. And, and that the fact that I'm pretty much like almost the only one here in the Okanagan that's doing this. So that's exciting.
That is exciting.
But I won't be, I'm sure, the only one for long.
Right.
It's not like I invented this idea. It's just, it takes somebody to do it, I guess.
It's similar to this podcast. Actually, there's podcasts all over the planet.
It's like you didn't invent podcasts. Like, this is...
But it's unique to Kelowna for the time being, which is great. And hopefully, like, I'm thinking 5 years from now, people will look to me for advice, how to start a podcast, how to...
They
right?
probably will.
It's not, I don't view it as, it's a limited pie. Like, we can grow this together. And I think it'd be the same for you. There's probably hundreds and hundreds of people that need that type of service. And once you're established, you'll be able to help others to do similar things.
Yeah. I know my goal here is to branch my business and find other registered nurses who want to take my business and do it elsewhere. So, like basically a franchise. So I'm just trying to get it established here and iron out the wrinkles and stuff. I'm learning a lot. As I said, I'm bringing in children and parents now, and that's a new thing, but didn't realize there was such a need. I just assumed that Kelowna had all this stuff, but and it will, So, I mean, the Foundry just opened up. They're kind of doing somewhat of a similar idea where they're collaborating with people. They didn't invent a new service. It's more like they brought all the existing services together in one hub.
What's the Foundry?
So the Foundry works with anybody, don't quote me, but I know it's 25 years and younger, and maybe it's 12 to 25. And they offer anything that is needed, whether it's mental health, funding, housing, food, counseling, like all that stuff for these children. They do a lot of free courses on teaching them how to budget. I think it's a fabulous thing. Now, again, they didn't reinvent the wheel. They just said, okay, we want to offer a one-stop place where kids can come to and ask help for anything, and we can direct them. So now that I have this program, I'm hoping to be able to collaborate with them as well, because they don't offer what I'm offering.
Right.
So.
That's great.
Yeah.
You've been here for over 4 years. I've been here for over 7 years. I think we have a similar experience that when we came here, we didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit challenging to meet new people in a new city.
Yes.
Some people say Kelowna is very cliquish. I believed that when I first came. And now I kind of see the wisdom in you start your own community.
Yes. That is what I've done too, yeah.
Tell us a bit about your experience. Like, what would you recommend? Because we do have listeners in Edmonton and Vancouver who are considering coming to Kelowna, but they hear like, oh, it's so cliquish and it's so hard to make friends and network and so on.
I know, I kind of got, I know,
would you tell people?
When I first came, I was waiting, because going to a small town, everybody knows the person who bought the house in the corner, because everybody knew that was, everybody knows everybody, so you didn't have to try to tell people that you were new and that you needed friends. People came to you. So I was kind of just waiting for people to come to me here, and nobody came. So then I realized, I'm like, oh, I might have to take this into my own hands and go make myself a friend. So I just started, I guess, going online and just finding events or just anything that I was into and just putting myself out there by myself.
Makes sense.
And it is nerve-wracking. You feel like you're back in kindergarten again or a new school. And you're like, but yeah, so then I also made a point at work too. Same thing. I was waiting for people just to invite you to places, but I realized I have to almost be the host. So I started just being my own host and inviting people I don't know. And then I've let a lot of people make friends at my house because they're in the same boat too and don't know people. So I always invite the stragglers that are like lost, and either you hit it off or you don't.
Well, that's great.
So, yeah.
I think it was Gandhi who said, become the change that you want to see in the world. So you've done that throughout your life, like with the patient advocacy, because you needed that in your own life. And making friends in a new city, it's really great that you look out for newcomers and, try.
Because I'm sure there's another person that doesn't have, like, I don't know, Easter dinner, so you'll invite them kind of thing, and why not?
I've been to some of your dinners with the turkey and everything.
Yeah.
Mom, and just wonderful cooking, man.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's making me hungry. We'll have to return the favor to you.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I think 2 or 3 times I came with my daughter.
Yeah.
And the food was amazing.
My mom's a good cook,
She's amazing.
Yeah, we make good food in that house. A little too good. But we're like, whatever, life's short.
Yeah, you might as well enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's so delicious. Yeah. Well, how do people find out about NPCA and the services that you offer?
I have a website, so it's nightingalepca.com. I'm also on Facebook. You just look up Nightingale Patient Care Advocacy and I'll come up. You can read about me in the chamber. You can read about me in a couple of newspapers too. You just type it into Google search engine. My phone number is 250-862-8894.
Okay.
And
people can text you
they
or call. Okay,
call.
You prefer call.
Yeah, that's a landline. I mean, I guess you can text the landline, but
I don't know if you
I don't know if it's a.
That's a landline. Okay,
that's a
gotta
landline.
make that clear.
But I've got email. You can easily email or Facebook message me on.
Okay,
get a hold of
we'll
me.
put all the links in the show notes. That's great. Would you like to nominate anyone to come on this show in the future?
Yes. Am I allowed to nominate 2 people?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
I've had
So,
very few people say, I don't want to nominate anybody, maybe 1 or 2. Most people nominate 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. One guy said, there's no way I can nominate 1. I've got 7 for you. And he just rattled off all these things. Most people are 1 or 2.
Okay.
So whatever you want.
So Chantel Adams,
okay.
She taught me how to speak. And because that was probably one of my biggest fears, was getting up on a stage in front of a bunch of people.
She's a public speaking
She's a public speaker, and she does, coaching. And she's got amazing programs that I've taken just to bring speaking more into my business, which I think is key. You got to be able to talk. You got to be able to talk about your business. And, and I never even actually thought, I just wanted to do advocating. I never thought about doing workshops and stuff. And so she kind of helped me think outside the box. She goes, there's so many different ways you can teach people. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, so I'm glad that I met her 4 years ago, and I've been working with her since. And
awesome.
And the other person, her name's Sarah Shakespeare.
And is it spelled like the author?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So wonder if she's related.
I know, right? So, anyways, she does a few things. I know she's got an interior design company, but she also is the president of the COPAC. But she also does speaking as well. She's like a motivator speaker. What do you call it? Motivational speaker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And why do you like Sarah?
She's just got great energy, and she loves Kelowna. She really promotes, and she really helps. Like she's just a really good, cheerleader for you. Like she's smart. She's very charismatic, high energy, and very supportive.
Nice.
Yeah, and she's a good speaker.
Awesome.
Luke Mankus is a realtor. He loves what he does. We asked Luke if he had any regrets about moving here in 2011, and he always says, yeah, one regret, and that is he didn't move here sooner. When Luke came here, he didn't know anyone. He didn't know the neighborhoods or anything or anyone besides his daughter, who was 6 years old at the time. So he knows what it's like. Now, he's an expert and has helped well over 100 single people, couples, families, and investors with their real estate needs in the Okanagan. If you're new to our beautiful city, Luke can help you get connected with great lawyers, dentists, carpenters, landscapers, swimming pool installers, you name it. And whether you're new to Kelowna or not, Luke knows real estate. He can help you find a great property, negotiate a good deal, and hold your hand all the way through the process until the day you get your shiny new set of keys. Luke is known as a no-pressure kind of guy. He's had clients where it took even a year or more to get them into a property. He just doesn't believe in rushing things. On the other hand, when you decide it's time to act, he's diligent, and he'll work day and night until the job is done. Give Luke Mankus a call or a text message at any time, 778-215-4273. Again, that's 778-215-4273. 778-215-4273 to chat with Luke about real estate.